Hey everyone, this is time for another live look at the astrology. My name is Katie Sweetman, and this is Empowering Astrology. So, this is the week of May 3rd through 9th, 2021. Yeah, we are in May. I know it's hard to believe. Here we are. Another May. I mean, I thought it was still April 2020 or something. So if you're watching live, please say hello. Tell me where you're watching from. The part of me that just has really deep curiosity about different parts of the world. And like I say all the time, I can't travel, so I have to live vicariously through you. So again, my name is Katie Sweetman. I am an astrologer and psychic medium here in Brooklyn, New York. And well, like I said, I can't travel as much. I have to travel through you all. But yeah, I see some familiar faces on the live chat. This week, we're not just in a new month. We're sort of prepping for a lot of things that are happening in May's astrology. And by the way, if you missed my May horoscopes are live. You can, well, they're in the link, they're in the show notes. And if you're listening on the replay, you can always go to the show notes there. But yes, they're on YouTube, they're on my website, empoweringastrology.com. So let's talk a little bit about May and why, a little bit of a preview, why it's such a big month. So this May, we've got eclipse season. So yes, the first eclipse of the series is not until May 26th, so we've got a few weeks to go. But we also have two things happening. We have Saturn turning retrograde on May 23rd. We're going to talk a little bit more about Saturn in this week's episode. And then we also have Jupiter entering Pisces. And for those who are maybe a little bit more astute to the astrology, wait a second, does Jupiter go into Aries back in December? And you would be correct. Jupiter tends to go a bit more quickly in this part of the zodiac for astronomical reasons. But yeah, Jupiter sort of flew through Aquarius and then it dips into Pisces next week on May 13th. So if you are a Pisces, or if you are a Sag, or even if you're a Virgo or a Gemini, this is sort of a little bit more of a bigger shift for you all. And it's of course a shift for all of us. Jupiter is the planet that helps us to know the world and also to know ourselves. One of the, I have like little pet peeve in astrology, when you're learning about Jupiter, they always say it's a planet of growth. And I'm like, what does that even mean with planet of growth? Well, it's a planet of growth because it inspires you to go out there into the world and to experience things, travel. Like I said, every week, like I can't travel. I have to travel through you all. That's because my chart rather is Jupiter ruled. I'm Sagittarius rising, FYI. So it is this planet, Jupiter, that wants us to get out there, wants us to learn about ourselves and the world. And that could be college or university, that could be higher education in all its various forms. That could also be travel. There's a search for, the need to search and explore with Jupiter. But when it's going to go into Pisces next week, the search goes inward because Pisces is a very internal sign. It's the last water sign. In fact, it's the last sign of the zodiac. So we're all going to be starting to feel this need to go a little bit more inward, to search and find answers within, to meditate and to maybe even reconnect with our spirituality. But that's next week. Let's not get a little bit too ahead of ourselves, but I wanted to put some things on your radar. Yes, Jupiter is going to go into Pisces on May 13th, and then we have the start of eclipse season, official start of eclipse season on May 26th. And just, a little recap about eclipses, they happen every 6 months. They are sort of this moment where life readies for the next act, that the curtain comes down on the previous act, and then we have a sense of that things are shifting and rearranging. This is why eclipses have this sense of like things are coming in and out of our lives, and then we prepare for the next act. So eclipses, they do have a bit of a reputation, but they also occur with your life milestones, a move, birth of a child, marriage, a new relationship, new job. So it's not necessarily this negative force, but it does mean change. And for a lot of you, life's going to feel like May is rearranging things. And I think that's also because of Saturn. And like I said, we'll talk a little bit more about Saturn this week. So yes, this week, May 3rd through 9th, 2021. This week, we actually start things off on Monday, May 3rd, with Sun square Saturn. So the Sun is in Taurus right now. We're sort of like the midpoint of Taurus season at the moment. And Taurus season is the second sign of the zodiac. It's a time when we, after that first initial rush of Aries season, it's time to put our seeds into the earth, to sort of put our feet into the ground and to feel stability and security. It's a very nuts and bolts sign. It wants, like I always say, like food in the kitchen, money in the bank, roof over our head. So maybe you all are feeling this need to get a little bit more stable and secure, or to think about what you own or what you need or what you share, because it's, Taurus is a very resource conscious sign. But we also have Saturn. So one of the things I've been talking about the past couple of weeks is Uranus. And, you guys probably, a little bit over, saturated with information on Uranus. I mean, for good reason, because, something I mentioned in the past couple of weeks is that Uranus is in Taurus. It'll be in Taurus until 2025, 2026. This is very normal. Uranus is what's called an outer planet, and it spends about 7 years in each of the zodiac signs. If you're an Aries, you don't even know this, but you already know what Uranus feels like, because you had it from 2010, 2011 to 2018, 2019, when your life had a huge reinvention. So now it's time for Taurus to reinvent itself. And the sense of stability and security and money and value and even sensuality and our relationship with our body, that has to be reinvented as well. And you may be thinking, I'm not a Taurus. Why does this relate to me? Well, you have Taurus somewhere in your astrology, because you're not just your sun sign, you are all 12 signs. And Taurus could be a really important player in your chart. If you're a Leo, Taurus is your career sign, for example. So there's a part of your life that's undergoing a radical shift. It's not a bad thing. It's an awakening. It's a breakthrough. Maybe it was a breakdown, now it's a breakthrough. But Uranus is a planet that's trying to get us to be 100% true and accurate to ourselves, which now brings me to Saturn. This is a little bit of a technical point, so bear with me for a moment. We have Uranus is about, I think like 12, 13 Taurus at the moment. I don't have my calendar in front of me. And then we have Saturn over at 12, 13 Aquarius. Now, Aquarius and Taurus are what are called 90 degrees apart from each other, make something called a square. Square energy is not bad, even though when you're learning about astrology, you hear, friction, squares are bad, oppositions are bad. No, squares are the energy of manifestation. They make things happen. We need manifestation. We are physical beings. If, when you come to me and you're stuck or something's not happening, we got to look at why something's not manifesting. Maybe you need that square energy to bring something into reality. So we have these two planets, Saturn and Uranus. They're in what's called a 90-degree angle with each other all year long. And we're going to have these moments throughout 2021 where they're sort of pushing and pulling at each other. And you could say that today, even though it's Sun square Uranus or Sun square Saturn, it's tapping into this seismic energy. Now, I've seen this in a lot of my clients, and maybe this is going to sound very familiar for you. And of course, we're all different people, but in 2021, it's as if each and every one of us, in our own way, we have one foot in a new life, and we have one foot in an old life. For some of us, it's an easy transition. For some of us, it's a terrifying transmission. I was going to say transmission. That's not right. Transition. Because we have a lot invested in the old us, the old life, the old way of being. And this is why the astrology in 2021 is trying to push us into a new direction, but one that is more in alignment with who we are. So let's just, let's take a job, for example, a career. And you're doing that career because it makes sense on paper. Maybe it affords you a lot of things. Maybe it's what your family wanted you to do. Maybe it, pays the bills quite well. But you're miserable. And even though it affords you a lot of things, it's costing you a lot of things. It's costing mental health, emotional health, freedom. And so that sort of deeper existential question, that question of value, is really front and center, in this example, front and center this year. And maybe you're thinking like, oh, wow, this actually does sound like me. Or maybe you're like, oh, that sounds like my partner or my best friend or whatever. But how do you resolve that shift, or that push and that pull? And this is not my big speech to tell you to do something radical if that's not what's right for you. Each and every one of you have to decide what's right for you, of course. But for some of you, that tension between doing what you thought was right, correct, it was somebody else's right or correct, versus what you really want to do, you're going to feel that push and pull this year. And so today, the sun square Saturn, it kind of picks up this story again, that push and that pull. It also picks up another story, Saturn. So let's go back in time real quickly. Saturn went into Aquarius for the first time on March 21st of 2020. That seems like another lifetime at this point. But it went into Aquarius on March 21st, 2020. And it was a sort of a dip in. It was a preview for us of this new time that we were going into. Saturn talks about lessons. I don't mean this in a bad way. Saturn talks about where we need to step up, do more, build, construct. Saturn is the planet of manifestation. And here we were talking a few moments ago about squares and manifestation. Well, you need Saturn energy in order to make things real, concrete, to grow. Saturn is the planet of teeth and bones in astrology. I know it sounds a little grim, but we are, again, physical beings. We have structures. We have skeletal structures. And Saturn says we need to make things structured in order for, life to sort of have this container in it. So every 2.5, 3 years, Saturn will go boom, boom, boom through each of the 12 zodiac signs, and it takes 29 years to go through each of the zodiac signs. Yes, Saturn takes 29 years to go through all of the zodiac. So right now it's concentrating its attention on Aquarius. Now, Saturn dipped out of Aquarius on July 1st, 2020, but it went back in on December 17th of 2020. So what that says to us, and even if you're like, I'm not an Aquarius, Katie, but Aquarius is some part of your chart, and I'll give you a little refresh in a moment, that needs your attention. It needs your work, it needs your efforts, it needs your boundaries. Saturn loves boundaries. Again, it's physical planet of physicality. It loves when we say no. And maybe this is part of your homework, everybody. That's what is your relationship with no? Are you afraid to say no? Do you not want to upset the status quo or hurt somebody's feelings? Because Saturn says you have to say no to the right things and yes to the right things. Sort of having this very healthy relationship with discernment and boundaries, because that's what we need in life in order to create balance and equity. Saturn is a very balance and equity minded planet. So today, this is, maybe you're feeling this, or maybe you felt it over the weekend. Something has to be in balance. We need to set healthy boundaries. We need to say no to the right things, or say yes to the right things, because Saturn is also the planet of commitment. And so today we're checking in on this story that began March of 2020, December of 2020. Go back. What was December 2020 like for you? Did something shift? Did a new chapter open? Or March of 2020? I realized March of 2020 had a lot of other things going on. But I think it's important to understand what Saturn and Aquarius is trying to do on a broader sense. Aquarius it's the second to last zodiac sign. When you get to the end of the zodiac, it's about things that are bigger than us. It's not about the individual. It's about the group. It's about the collective. It's about humanity. And Aquarius is a sign that's teaching us right now about the needs of humanity. So maybe we're all, in our own way, more conscious and more aware of our fellow humans. How do we connect to one another? How do we not connect to one another? How are we distant and separated? Of course, 2020 and even 2021 was a year of distance and separation. But how do we build connection? Because Saturn actually wants connection. It loves connection. It's exalted in Libra. It's a technical point. But this is a time when we all have to look at the systems and the networks that our lives are built upon, both individually and collectively, to kind of bring it down more to a kind of relatable one-on-one level. Aquarius is about friendship and our social connections. And Saturn can be a little brutal in Aquarius, meaning Saturn has been going through your phone and deleting contacts, so to speak, for the last, 4, 5, 6 months, because Saturn is saying that the people in your life have to be truly in your life. They have to be a support. They have to be somebody that allows for equity and flow and connection. And if it's a toxic relationship, if it's not equitable, if it's somebody that drains you, or somebody that's not a real friend, then it's time to say no. It's time to set boundaries. And maybe this is something that you've experienced the past few months, and it can be very it's hard to lose friendships. It's hard to see the end of a 10-year relationship or a 20-year relationship because suddenly something's not right, something's not equitable. But Saturn's not trying to break people up. Saturn's just trying to create stronger connection, but it's always an agreement between two people. Aquarius is an air sign. It's about relationships. So this is just something for you all to reflect on as we have this step up with Saturn today, Sun square Saturn. Where are your relationships at? Where are your friendships at? Where's your social connection at? Are you feeling more disconnected than usual, or now you're having a chance to reconnect to your friendships? Or maybe because of the pandemic, your social circle has shrunk, but the people that are there are like rock solid. They're part of your pod. They're part of your team. And this is also a time about social causes and social justice. Aquarius is about justice and humanity, and it's about equity and fairness. And these are all these sort of bigger themes that we're all navigating right now. So today, see where Saturn is asking you to take a step up in your life. Where is the call for responsibility right now? But at the same time, where's the call for accountability? Because this is a moment where Saturn is sort of looking over the receipts over the past 4 months, and it's like, okay, great, cool. Or actually, maybe you want to do something different. Or maybe you need to show up. Maybe you haven't been showing up. Everybody's in a different place. But that's just something to keep in mind. And that's the other thing. And that's why I was trying to say, talk about Uranus earlier, is because Uranus is in the square with Saturn. So it's just a very, there's tensions this year. It's a year where it's like things are being pulled this way, things are being pulled another way, and we have to sort of resolve this tension. And for some, it's either a big tension, but for some, it's quite manageable. We're all in different places, but this can be like a huge year of breakthrough. If you use this energy to build new systems and build new networks, and to get back in alignment with what you feel is equitable and fair in your life, what is going to allow life to flow? Because at the end of the day, even though Saturn has a reputation in astrology as being a bit of a hard planet, I really truly believe that in some facets, Saturn is actually trying to bring more support and stability to our life so that more life can flow. So that's today, May 3rd. We also have Mercury going into Gemini. Mercury is right at home in Gemini. So Mercury is going to be a strong player in the sky. Just a little side note, Mercury is not going to leave Gemini till July 11th of 2021. That's actually a really long time for Mercury to be in one sign, and you're probably doing the math if we're not. And that's because we're going to have a Mercury retrograde at the end of this month on May 30th. So nothing to worry about. Mercury retrograde, it happens every 3 months. It's quite normal. But at the same time, Mercury is going to be slowing down in the side of Gemini. So I just put a little word of caution, even though I don't get super phased about Mercury retrograde, but it will be retrograde in Gemini. So all month long, we're going to have to really double check our communication, the choices that we're making, the conversations we're having, the thoughts and ideas we're having. And just, do your due diligence. But Mercury will be very strong. And Gemini gets us out. It makes us move. It gets us restless and curious. So this is an energy that's going to start to come in more, even though we've been in Taurus season, because on May 8th, Venus will also go into Gemini. And Venus is what's called the ruler of Taurus season. So it's like the energy it's now starting to point away from Taurus. It's not going to start to point towards Gemini. Taurus and Gemini are two very different signs, even though they are side by side with one another. Taurus is earth, it's stability, it's groundedness. It typically is a bit cautious, it moves more slowly, but it's a fixed sign. By the way, fixed signs, a little quick refresh: Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius. The fixed signs keep things fixed. That's their job. So life can be stable. But right now, the fixed signs aren't so fixed. So if you know a Scorpio, if you know a Leo, if you know an Aquarius, if you know a Taurus, their lives are not so fixed, not so stable. A little side note. So this is, we're moving out of this time where we had all this fixed energy in the sky, and then we're getting a little bit more mutable. Gemini has flexibility. It makes things move. So maybe we're going to move. Maybe we're going to get out more. Maybe we're going to walk or chat or interact or socialize, because Gemini is an air sign, and the air signs are about socialization, interconnection, connectivity, systems, networks. Kind of sounds like Saturn, Aquarius. So yeah, we're going to start to get a lot more movement as we go into the end of this week. And we're going to have sort of these two different chapters of Taurus season. The first half is going to be very earthy, Taurian. The second half is going to have this little dash of Gemini to it. And, this is a little technical point for those that know a little bit more astrology. Gemini is Taurus's second sign, and Taurus is the second sign. I know it's like some mental gymnastics, but this says that Taurus actually has a lot more in common with Gemini than we give it credit for. This is why Taurus loves to accumulate, it loves to gather, and sometimes likes to have a lot of one thing. Side note. So those are the big players this week of May 3rd through 9th, 2021. And we'll just kind of refresh our attention with our Saturn and Aquarius story. So Aries, Aquarius is what's called your 11th sign. It's your sign of friends and community. So everything that I've been talking about our Saturn and Aquarius story actually is doubly so for you. This is a time where Saturn is being very discerning of the people in your life. It is asking you in turn to also be very discerning about the people in your life. Who's your community? Who are your friends? Who's your social network? Who's helping you to build your life and create positive connection? And who's not? So maybe the people that were there in 2019, 2020, or maybe not the people that are there now, unfortunately. But the fortunate side of that is that the connections that you have right now, Aries, are hopefully rock solid. At least that's the bigger picture of it. That's what Saturn is trying to get you to build. That's the thing. Saturn is the planet of building, constructing, making things solid, manifestation. So you're trying to make solid friendships, solid social connections, a framework of community. And this is also a part of the chart that is trying to make you aware of the world on a much broader level. And maybe you're being a little bit more socially minded now. Maybe you're getting involved in social causes. Maybe you're getting more involved in your community because you're in a phase of life, Aries, where it's not about you, it's about other people. And how do you start to build something that's going to connect you to the larger framework of the world? Maybe it's a time of service. Maybe you're getting really involved in service in your community. So this is your framework, Aries, and this is for you to kind of check in today. This isn't the final examination. It's just we'll call it a midterm, where you get to check in on Saturn's role in your life and where you're at with friendships, social connection, social circle. Because if you're feeling a bit disconnected, that's not what Saturn actually wants in the long run. It wants you connected. So how do you take concrete, actionable steps to make more connection in your life? Taurus. Aquarius is your career sign. It kind of forms the top of your chart, and the career sign in anybody's astrology talks about the role that we play in the world. It could be something as simple as the title after our name, our ambitions, the job that we're known for, our career that we aspire to. So Saturn is asking you a very simple question right now, Taurus. What do you want to be when you grow up? And maybe you're like, but I'm 50. Didn't I grow up long ago? Well, we all have different stages in our life, and astrology, even though there are these moments that are the same for everybody, meaning that we have these stages of evolution that are the same because we're human, but sometimes things happen in people's lives at different times. So for you, Taurus, it doesn't matter what age you are, you're sort of having to answer Saturn right now about what do you want to be in the world? What do you want to be when you grow up? What's the title you want after your name? What are your goals and your ambitions? So this is a time to either really solidify your present career, meaning what you've been working and striving and building towards over the previous years, or even the previous 15 years, or even the previous 20 years. Saturn is a long-term planet. It is a planet that is in it for the long haul, the long game. So this is something that maybe you've been working towards for a long time. But Saturn is also saying, if this is not it, meaning if what you're doing in your career is not what you came here to do, or if you haven't been pushing yourself hard enough, or you haven't been getting things well defined, this is your week, this is your month to really step it up, so to speak. And I will say Saturn, since it's your career planet, it's in that square with Uranus all year long. So you are, Uranus is in Taurus, so it's you. So maybe you're trying to figure out how to fit yourself into this new career phase, or maybe you're trying to rearrange or to reinvent something on a professional level. Maybe you're leaving a career. Maybe you're going off in a very different direction and building something new because you've made so many changes in the past couple of years that those changes now have to reflect in key areas of your life, such as career. So Saturn, again, is checking in on your professional life, is checking in on the duties and responsibilities that you have said that you will do. This is not the week to slack off, Taurus. Just a little, friendly reminder, just as your Saturn, I tell people I'm like your Saturn guide. I'm telling you your Saturn whisperer. But anyway, Gemini. So Aquarius is your sign of faith, truth, and meaning. Just like the other two signs before, Saturn is in the part of your chart that is more outwardly facing, meaning it's more about the world than it is about you on an individual level. This is, over the next 2 years, and this is something for everybody to understand, that until March of 2023, Saturn will be in Aquarius. So for you, Gemini, Saturn is trying to get you to be very clear, to define, to build, to work towards, and to learn What is it that you believe in? This is a time for you to see the world. You realize that it's a little bit hard to do that right now by plane or travel, but how do you see the world in other ways? Do you go to college, or you go back to school? Do you go back to university? Do you get a higher degree? Saturn is definitely talking about higher degrees for you, for at least for some people. This is relevant. And because we're going to be going into a time that's going to have Jupiter's in Pisces, Uranus is in your 12th house, your 12th sign, Gemini. I think you're also really thinking deeply about existential questions. Like, what does this all mean? And maybe you went through a very tough 2018, 2019, 2020, and now you have to sort of put sense on a lot of the things that you went through. But nevertheless, this is a time for, it's about education on a lot of different levels, and especially about the education that you need in order to boost and to build your career, Gemini, because after March of 2023, I realize this is further down the line, you're going to go through this period in your life where it is about career. So it's like, if you want to take that next step up in your professional life down the road, what do you need? What sort of education, what sort of specialized training do you need right now? Cancer. So just to reiterate some things I've been talking about with Cancer, Cancer, Saturn is in what I call your 8th room, because Aquarius is what's called your 8th sign, the 8th sign in your astrology house. And when you go into the 8th room, Saturn is asking you, well, maybe not politely asking you or demanding of you that you face yourself. This is a time when you have to dig really deep into who you are, to face your fears, to look at your shadow self, your inner saboteur. So if you're feeling a lot of deep emotions right now, Cancer, this is quote unquote the time for you to do so, to feel vulnerable, to let people in, to seek out and to build intimacy in your life, to build vulnerability in your life. And you're in a space right now that will take you into 2023 where it's best to have support and a guide, whether it's a counselor or a therapist or somebody that fulfills that role, because you're having to do a lot of emotional heavy lifting, and it's just easier, I know some personal experience, to not have to do it alone. So how do you use today's check-in with Saturn to check in with your emotional health or your mental health, or to really look at where you're maybe not saying no? Because Saturn, again, loves no, where you need to set more or better, healthier emotional boundaries. But there is a time about the psyche, and then also is about money. So Cancer, you may be navigating themes around wealth and finance, or the money that you share with somebody, especially an intimate partner, like a marriage or a partnership. And maybe you're having to also build wealth or build new financial structures in your life. So maybe you're using this week to sort of check in with your financial advisor, your tax person, to sort of sort through your receipts and what have you, and get your financial life in order, because again, that's just what Saturn wants. Leo. So Saturn's in your relationship sign. Yes, Aquarius is your relationship sign, Leo. It's, Aquarius opposes you. Opposes is not bad. It's just your complement. Leo is individuality. Aquarius is the group. It's the collective. Nevertheless, this is a time for serious relationship. That, of course, can come in many different forms. For some people, it is a serious relationship that comes in, whether it's a committed partnership, somebody moves in with you, maybe there's a marriage, maybe there's something else that sort of marks milestones with you and a partner. This can include the birth of children, but this is a time for you to really work on your one-on-one skills with other people. Saturn is saying that if you don't have a relationship in your life, you're afraid to connect to people, or if there's a past story, or whatever, everybody's different, of course. How do you work and build something very new? Because again, Saturn is square Uranus this year. The new story is like people are trying to come into your life. You're trying to go off in new directions. And in order for that to happen, the old stories can't be in your way. You can't be in your way. But this is a time to really have these stronger one-on-one connections to people, to also create equitable relationships, fair relationships. If you're in a serious partnership or an intimate partnership and there is a lack of equity at the moment, Saturn's not gonna like that. It's like a house that needs to have a strong foundation, strong structure. So yes, relationships are sort of getting stress tested right now. It's not a bad thing, but it's sort of showing you where are the weak points. Is it because you're not saying no to somebody or not saying yes to somebody, or there's some sort of old toxic situation that Saturn's just like, nope. Or maybe somebody is really coming into your life and they are a solid, equitable partner, and it's time to make some sort of deeper commitment to one another. But this is not just romantic relationships, this is all relationships. So see how Saturn is looking at the different relationships in your life. It even could be friendships, especially strong one-on-one friendships, but also to see where Saturn is showing up in all relationships, because this is a time about taking the next step up in how you connect to other people. Virgo, Saturn is in your health and wellness sign, so this week is sort of checking in with how you take care of your body. The foods you're eating, the exercise you're either getting or not getting. We do have a physical being. It does need attention. So this time, this week, this month, this next 2-year period, your body really needs your attention. The other thing that needs your attention right now is sort of how you organize and structure your day-to-day life, because this part of the chart, this part of anybody's chart, is what's called the sixth sign, the sixth house, sixth room. It's like, what are the structures, how do we organize our daily life? From waking up, brushing our teeth, to making sure we get our to-do list done, sort of the things the minutia that our daily lives run on. If life is a mess right now, Virgo, I don't even know how that's possible, Virgo, but yes, maybe life is a mess right now. How do you get things organized? And that's what Saturn is looking at this week, and that's what Saturn is looking at this month. It's saying, if this old system that you have is not creating balance in your life, well, it's time to bring things back into balance. If your physical being is not in balance right now, how do you create more balance in your life? So these are just things for you to think about, Virgo. Saturn is making that square to Uranus all year long. So maybe the changes you are making in your daily life, or how you take care of your body or your health, are radical changes. This can include ending habit, or getting rid of habits, or cleaning out diet, or organize things a different way. I'm just kind of looking at the comments. Sometimes there are messy Virgos out there. It's, I know that there's a reputation in Virgo to be like just really neatly organized, but I think that Virgo is a sign that is very conscious of systems. And for some Virgos, it's a very regimented system. It's a very organized, color-coded system. You should meet my mother. Or for other Virgos, it's a system, but it's a mess. But it's a system. But everybody's different. But anyway, Virgo. Libra. So Aquarius is your sign of the self, how you express who you are, your creativity, your self-expression, your identity, your persona. And this is also a time for you to get serious about fun. I know Saturn and fun are two words that don't typically go together, but Saturn is saying, like, make priority for you, because this is a time when you have to get serious about you, serious about your talents, your abilities, your creativity, your self-expression. And if you are working on something that's creative, like maybe this is a week where it's the next step up in a creative project. If this is a week where you're trying to get very clear about who you are, Saturn is sort of tapping its foot and saying, okay, well, who are you? because this is a week where maybe you're starting to realize that the person you were a couple of years ago, Libra, is not the person you are now. And a lot of that's because you're having to do a lot of deep emotional work. Uranus is in what's called your 8th sign. So how do you have a breakthrough this week? Because if your shadow self has been getting in the way of you expressing you, which means self-sabotage or fears or limitations, how do you use Saturn positively to really well define and to take seriously who you are at the deepest parts of yourself? This part of the chart also talks about children and pregnancy, in case that is relevant to your life. So Saturn can also mark these milestones in trying to have children or to build a family. But do get serious about who you are, Libra. Have fun. Prioritize yourself. Set boundaries. Put your name on something. This is a time when really people have to feel you, know you, and you have to feel you, and you have to know you. Scorpio. So Aquarius forms the bottom of your chart. And like you think the bottom of something, it's about foundation, it's about roots, it's about home and family. So Saturn is trying to get you to be very serious about your living situation. And maybe you're thinking about making a big move or needing to redefine what is home, what is family. This is generally a time when you are settling down, Scorpio. This can involve a major move. This can involve staying put. But how does your present living situation better define sort of what you need in life? Because it's a time when you're trying to get very clear about emotional needs, emotional security, and family need your help right now. Or maybe you're thinking about building your own family right now. So Saturn is this check-in on the process. Maybe, again, you're thinking about moving or you want to make some structural changes in your home. But every Scorpio is going to feel this differently. And the thing is that you've got that square to Uranus all year long, and Uranus is in your relationship sign. So it's like if you want a partner to come in, how does your home need to reflect a partner coming in or have space for partnership? If somebody is moving in with you, even if it's not a romantic partner, like how do you cohabitate? How do you learn to share? How do you learn to make a home with another person? Or make your home environment is getting a big shakeup. Maybe somebody's moving out. Every Scorpio is a bit different, but nevertheless, this is a time for you to make a very simple definition right now for Saturn. Where is home and who is home? Sagittarius. So this part of your chart is about voice and communication. This is a time when you need to get serious about how you're using your voice, the words you're using, the intelligence behind it. Aquarius is a very intelligent sign in general. And how do you really be in the authority of what you have to say? For some of you, this involves teaching. Maybe you're taking all your wisdom and knowledge, of which Sagittarius has a lot of wisdom and knowledge, and you're putting it out there. Aquarius is about the systems and networks. So the systems and networks of what you are, how you're sharing this wisdom and knowledge. But Sagittarius, if you have been taking your voice for granted, not speaking, not being heard, then this is the week where you're checking in on that story. And for some of you, you have to say no. This is not okay because you haven't been saying no. Or maybe you have to say yes, but say yes to the right things. If you're a writer, this is a time to write that manuscript. If you're a public speaker, how do you take that next step up in your relationship with your voice? If you're a singer, sing, let your voice be heard, take it seriously. This is also a time when, this part of the chart does talk about choice and how do you take choice seriously? Because you're at a point, Sagittarius, where life is sort of coming to a fork. And maybe that's in 2023, kind of getting ahead of myself. But, coming up to these different forks in the road, how do you have the wisdom and knowledge in order to know which, left, right, up, down, which way to go. So this is a time when you're evaluating two sides of things, your options. You're trying to have the wisdom and the authority to make the right choices right now. And just, little side note, because Jupiter, your planet, is going to change signs, maybe this week, because Jupiter is at the very end of Aquarius, you're seeing some sort of bloom. I mean, there's a better word to use, but you're sort of seeing the results this week of your work, while Jupiter has also been in Aquarius, but it does go into Pisces next week, May 13th. And so you're going to be going into a new phase of life, Sagittarius, where it is about home and family. Capricorn. So this is the part of the chart that talks about money, income, material needs, material worth, and value. So it's a very nuts and bolts time for you to sort of look over your spending. Look over what you sort of intrinsically value, what you spend your money on, the money that you have saved up in the bank. This is more about personal resources than opposed to things that are coming from outside sources, like a partner or benefits or whatever. But this is a time for you to get very clear about what you need in order to feel rooted and stable and grounded in your life. Saturn can sometimes have a little bit of a reputation as part of the chart as being a bit hard on money. Having gone through this, I think the other side of it is Saturn is trying to get you just very clear about what you need versus what you don't need. Because Saturn doesn't like the excess. It doesn't like things that are just, a waste. So maybe this is a week where you have to look at waste. How are you have been wasting resource? Or maybe this is a time where you suddenly realize the exact value, the hidden value and the actual value of the money that you are spending. Maybe you're also making big investments. So Saturn's sort of looking over at the purchases that you are making this week, the money that you're spending, the things you're spending it on. It's also at once a budget. Yes, Capricorn, you're at a time to come up with a budget, for example. But it is a time about money, material stability, material security, and for you to create more stability in your life. I know the irony right now is that Saturn, your planet, your money planet, is in a square to Uranus all year long. So there's a little bit of ups and downs at the moment, but that's just because something new is trying to come in and something's trying to open your eyes to some sort of new value. And I think that because Uranus is in what's called your fifth sign, you are changing, Capricorn. You are awakening to who you really are, even if it's scary, even if it seems like something out of the blue. It's not out of the blue. It's always there deep inside of you. And so how does your whole value system change? How does your self-worth change? Something to think about. Aquarius. So Saturn is checking up on you. You are an Aquarius. Saturn is in your sign until March of 2023. So this is a big new time for you, Aquarius. When you go back to, in your mind to 2020, there's sort of this before and after. Maybe it'll be a little bit more apparent the more that you get into this very 30-year-long story of Saturn. So Saturn is sort of at the starting point of something, and you have to take action, initiative. You need to lead. You need to lead. You need to be the authority. You need to be something that somebody looks up to. So maybe life is sort of piling it on at the moment, but it's Saturn sort of does this thing where it's like, yeah, you can handle this, right? You can totally take on more responsibility. But maybe on the flip side of that is that you have to say no, Aquarius, to what you need to say no to, and maybe say yes to the things that are a little bit more conducive to balance and equity in your life. And so maybe this week somebody is saying, oh yeah, you have the authority, you have the responsibility and the maturity. Maybe you're getting recognized for something that you've been working on this week. And maybe, to that point, Saturn, your planet, is in a square to Uranus all year long, and you're having to really make some big changes in your life, Aquarius. And maybe that's a move, maybe that's a change, maybe that's a psychic change, a change in your roots, a change in your home, change in family, or maybe you are not the same person you were a couple years ago because something is radically shifting. But this is a time, Aquarius, where just in traditional astrology, maybe you just feel the heaviness Maybe you feel like you don't have as much energy. That's just, Saturn, can be a very heavy planet. And so maybe you're navigating weighty things at the moment. Maybe life feels weighty. But I would use this energy to make serious, positive milestones in your life, because these are the things that Saturn loves. These are the things that are going to support you over the coming years. Pisces. So Pisces, yes, Saturn is in what's called your last sign. Aquarius is your 12th sign. It talks about the deep reflection within. It's a very existential time for you, Pisces. It's a time when, this is the analogy that I often make when Saturn gets to this part of anybody's chart. It's like you're in a room, and this room is filled with all the boxes and stuff that you've accumulated over the last 3 decades. And how do you use this time to go through everything, to sort of sort and to define, well, what do you want to bring with you? And this talks about things that are both tangible and intangible, because the idea is that when you cross over into March of 2023, when Saturn goes into Pisces in 2023, the stuff that you've been carrying for the last 30 years, if you bring it with you into 2023, it's with you. It sort of comes with you into this new cycle. And when it comes with you, it's harder to get rid of it. And I mean this like if it's a belief, if it's something that you own physically, if it's just the detritus and the stuff and the baggage of the past, get rid of it. It's time to spiritually pare down. It's time to look deep within, answer big questions, time to rest, and to really build more spiritual connection and build a bridge between one half of your life, one phase of your life, and the next half and the next phase of your life. And I will also add, Pisces, Jupiter, your planet, has also been in this last sign of yours, Aquarius, but it will go into Pisces on May 13th. So in a way, in 2021, you're sort of half in, half out of 2 different lives. On one hand, Jupiter is going into Pisces. It'll be in Pisces until July 28th. It'll go back into Aquarius. So it's like the next few months for you, Pisces, are a little bit of a preview. You're starting something, but at the same time, you've got one foot in a very old life, and you're sort of going back and forth between these 2 states. And I really think for you, Pisces, see where things are by the end of the year. You're like, oh my God, the end of the year. I'm like, look, it's May. We've got, 6-7 more months at this point. It's going to go by like this. So, but just use this time to be very discerning, very reflective, and very purposeful about what you want to bring with you into this new life. And you may feel this shift next week where it's like, oh, things are moving, new beginnings. Yeah. May is going to be a big month for you, Pisces. This is the same for Sagittarius, Virgo, Gemini, because we've got eclipses, we've got Jupiter going to Pisces. A lot of things are moving right now. I went into this a little bit more in depth in my monthly horoscopes for May. You can watch them online on my website, also on YouTube, and you can get a little bit more of a deeper dive into what May means for each of the 12 signs. Side note, listen for your rising sign as well. And I get this question all the time, so I'm just repeating myself. It's both. It's both your sun sign and your rising sign. You sort of exist in these multiple spaces, multiple stories at the same time. For some of you, the rising sign and the sun sign is the same, so you just listen for one. Some people like to listen for their moon sign. For me personally, I hear a little bit about when I look at the moon sign and listening for the moon sign or reading for the moon sign. You can get some information from that, but what I've noticed is that it's not it's like it's happening, but it's not the thing that's at the forefront of your life right now. It talks a little bit more about things that are emotional and atmospheric at the moment. So that's just a little bit of a side note. So yeah, I'm just looking in on the chat. I see some familiar faces. So yes, thank you for joining me all for another live look at the astrology. This is for May 3rd through 9th of 2021. Again, my name is Katie Sweetman. This is Empowering Astrology. You can follow me online at empoweringastrology.com. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. You can sign up for my newsletter or book a consultation with me. I know some of you are my clients. So again, thank you very much for joining me week in and week out and sharing your experiences and supporting my work, of course. And I'm really appreciative of you all. So yeah, big month ahead. We've got some big changes, but we will continue talking. So until next week, take care. Bye.